Hey, welcome back to another episode of Yomo, a year of magical learning. Today, we're actually on episode 60. It's a big milestone.
Yeah,
First, why don't you tell us about what book we are going to talk about today?
yeah, you got it. So this one's a bit of a special book for me, actually. It's called Hiroshima by the author John Hersey. The book is about John Hersey's tells the story of 6 different people and their day, what they experienced during the Hiroshima bombing,
Mhm.
following their life for the next 30 or 40 years after that, and then kind of gives an understanding of what they experienced on that day, what their immediate afterlife was like after that, and then how their lives changed 15, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, kind of thing, and kind of what became of them a little bit. The reason why this
Right.
book is impactful for me, as you know, this is a section of my book that I wrote. I called it my atomic bomb theory of what happens in life when your whole world kind of gets wiped out in an instant, and what do you do going forward, kind of thing. This book, the reason why I wrote this book was because I was in the early stages when I was kind of formulating this idea in my own mind as I was grappling with my own loss. I call it my metaphorical atomic bomb that went off in my own life of losing my daughter after 39 days here on this earth, and just knowing that things can get taken from you so quickly. I wanted to, as I was 6 months or so into this journey, and I was feeling a little bit more exploratory around a lot of these thoughts, and I was writing the book, and this is why I ended up picking up this story, just because I wanted to kind of feel what these people felt and hear it through John, the author's storytelling about what these people went through and what choices they made when the literal atomic bomb went off in their life, and how they kept going or not. Some of them didn't, some of them fell apart, some of them became stronger, some of them, I mean, everybody processes these kind of events in their life and trauma and tragedy completely differently. And that was kind of the reason why I was drawn to this book in particular. So the reflection title I wrote, "The Whole World Can Change in a Moment's Notice. Let Your Values Be Your Anchor." So picking up where I was just talking about, one of the things that I've tried to do in my life these days is the book I wrote is called "I Can't Imagine," because I wanted people to imagine what my family went through, what my life was like, what my daughter went through, what my wife went through, what I went through. And I tried to be as detailed as I could to explain what it's like to have a child born at 22 weeks old, to be in a life or death situation every single day in the NICU, to lose your child, your firstborn child, to then, trying to figure out how to bring meaning to your life again. And that visualization of imagining somebody's life, I think you can learn a lot of lessons from it. And when I was reading through this book, one of the things that I kept visualizing is, what would it be like to literally wake up one morning, you're taking your kids to school, you're making lunch, you're making breakfast, or whatever it may be for your family, you're doing your morning workout, like whatever your morning routine is, and all of a sudden bomb literally just drops on you, and what you're looking at right now, where you're ever at right now, and you're in your office, where you are, where I am, or if you're somewhere else, and to just literally visualize in your own head, like, what would this look like right now, like after a situation like that, when everything literally gets taken away from that you can feel, you tangibly can see your family, your friends, your home, everything is gone, and how that might feel. And it's pretty intense, right? A situation that the only word that I can think of describing it is atomic bomb, which is why this book was all about. And I wanted the feeling that I wanted to better understand as I was going through it. So the question then becomes, what do you do? Like, what all these people that they interviewed and survived and kept going in this world, like, what did they do? How do they process this stuff? How do they continue on with their life? And the truth of the matter is they all did it in completely different ways. So as I went through my own process here over the past couple of years, the thing that I have tried to use for my own self to move forward after the atomic bomb event in my own life was to really try to find my values and understand what's really important to me in this world, and then to anchor myself to that, knowing if this ever happens to me ever again in my life, I know what's important and I know what I care about most. You can't take somebody's values from them. You can take my daughter, you can take my home, you can literally blow up my world tomorrow, but one thing, if I survive, you can't take it, is those values and how you want to live your life and how you want to move forward, what you care about and do every single day. And that's what I found was most important. And that's how you kind of move forward after an atomic bomb. And that's at least how I process. So yeah, love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, for me, I think the Hiroshima is actually a literal atomic bomb for them, and also a metaphorical atomic bomb. But to me, I think the metaphorical atomic bomb is much, much more devastating. Because I mean, for even for the people in Hiroshima, it is the world aftermath. It is hard, and I think that without values, I don't think people can go on. They just can't. go on.
I tend to agree. I don't know how everything gets taken from you in this world, and then without something anchoring to
right.
your entire identity can get destroyed literally in the blink of an eye. These atomic bomb events, they happen to people every single day, whether it's your loved one dying of cancer, like the situation happened with
Right.
me. I don't know, maybe there's a car wreck or something like that takes your parent or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's situations that happen like this, like every single day, like the isolated atomic bombs that go off in people's
Right.
lives. Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, most people not gonna realize that the real values that makes them who they are, the identity, until something like this happens, and until you can figure it out and reclaim that values, that virtues that you're holding on to. Without that, there's no direction for you. And I don't think, because there's no directions, there's nothing to live for. So I don't think, like, for most people, like you said, if you don't anchor yourself to some value, some virtue, it will be extremely much more difficult for you to continue to be sane, to be useful to society, to be anything but, a piece of blob. And if you survive, I mean, most people don't even survive. Like literally, they can't even survive. That's why a lot of people, like, let's say, a husband and wife, like, if the husband die first or the wife die first, like, grandma, grandpa, whatever, and if one of them die, the other person will follow within 3 to 6 months. They can't survive just because,
That's because
that's the whole
we anchor our identity on stuff that can be taken from us in this world. Yeah, I think Luca agrees.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because you're totally right, because we put all of our identity into the home that we have, the job that we do, the people that, your wife, I mean, I'm not saying everybody does that, but like that's a lot of people do that, and if those things get taken from you, you're right. Like, I mean, what's the point of living, I guess? Why do you keep going if when stuff like this happens?
And most people, the thing I want to kind of call out is most people don't, is because that's what we want to call out, is that, like, you need to have some kind of anchor, some kind of virtues, so that you can go on. Because I've seen a lot of people who have a single kid, and if something happened to that kid, well, that marriage, that family is totally gone. It's not easy for that family to continue on like nothing happened, because that has changed forever.
It's not that it's not easy, it's impossible. You can't pretend that the atomic bomb didn't hit your home for the rest of your life. Even if you run away from that, like the people that were in Hiroshima, you're still going to see that every single day of your life that you wake up. You're going to feel that every single day of your life in some way, shape, or form. You can't escape it. When events like this happen in people's lives, it's just a part of it. Trauma is a part of you. The body keeps the score, right? This is something that we'll talk about later on down the road. You can't get rid of this. I will never not think of my daughter 500 times a day and everything that we went through, and it will never change. And I'm sure it was the same for people that are victims of sexual assault and victims of, where did Luca just go? Oh, there he is. Okay. Sorry. He crawled under a table somewhere else in the room. So even if you're victims of sexual assault, you're victims of anything that's a traumatic experience, never leaves you, and you can either be stuck in that moment for the rest of your life, or you can find a way to keep moving forward, which is using your imagination and letting your values be that anchor to reignite that imagination. And I say all this with like sincere love in my, like, this is not easy. It's not like, why does somebody decide to do, I don't know. Why did I decide to go this route? I don't know. I think Amelia helped me to guide this, to guide me down this road, and I still follow her today. And we'll talk a lot about that in conversations to come. I don't know why I chose what I chose. I'm happy I did, but I know for a lot of people, they're tortured by this stuff. I mean, you could hear it in the book,
Yes.
as the author was talking about it. And I just finished this book called Into Thin Air by John Krakauer today actually, and it was about a bunch of people dying on Mount Everest and his experience of being a part of that. Like, that'll never leave him. Like, I mean, and every single one of those people came home and they processed it differently. The ones that survived. I mean, it sucks. Like, I mean, you'll never ever get through any of these events and continue to live your life with any kind of purpose or I guess joy, probably is maybe the word, or fulfillment or meaning, if you don't if you let what gets taken from you dominate who you are, I guess,
Right.
going forward.
Yeah. For me, you have to anchor your new world around values and use inspirations. You use your daughter's inspirations as the foundation to rebuild and to say, well, I'm going to honor her by doing this for her. That gives you a reason, a value, a virtue to strive for, to continue to go on and build. And I think that helps you tremendously in terms of making the best out of it. It's not that you don't experience it and suffer from it. It's just that you're able to take it and use it to build versus letting it weigh on you for the rest of your life. And I think
Right.
that's the difference. I see you do this because I think I met you only a few months, a couple of months, maybe 4 or 5 months after you lost Amelia, right?
Yeah.
And I've been there with you and I've seen you change because using that, your daughter's courage and bravery as inspirations to rebuild this, and that makes you a stronger character because of it. Because in order for you to continue to go on with that, you have to be that strong. You can't be, get pushed around by the bad thing that happens to you in life. And if you do that, it's hard and it's probably gonna be impossible to continue on with any kind of happiness or purpose.
I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, you're totally right. When you and I met, I was coming out of my, I like to call it my, lessons in the rubble. Like I was coming out of the rubble. I've been stumbling in the dark for 2 or 3 months doing similar stuff, right? Writing every day, reading every day, exercising every day, following my daughter, just trying to summon her power, I guess, of how she lived her life and her courage to keep just pushing forward until I found my way through the dark and started finding the values that I was seeing. And that was when you and I, when I slowly was first starting to emerge of this. I didn't really know, I had no idea where I was going, but I knew how I was going to get there. At that point in time, when I came out of this, the early stages of those first initial values that really mattered to me in this life going forward that I wanted to anchor my life to. And that was how you and I connected on this. And that's how the compound effect of all the stuff that came out of this. So my only regret for this whole entire process is that my daughter had to be the reason why this was losing my daughter had to be the reason how I found this new approach to life. But I think if there's any lesson that other people can learn is figure this stuff out now, how to anchor your life and values today and live your life, as a value driven life with doing what you care about and with who you care about today. And then should an atomic bomb, you wake up tomorrow and rocks your world, you're living a good life either way right now. And then B, you're more well prepared to figure out like how to reimagine a world quickly and not have to go stumble around through the dark, to figure that out.
Yeah. It's like being prepared.
Yeah.
Right. Because you have to understand like what your real values are. Right. And you have to know what is real values and what is the value that is the noise of everyday life. And so if you can imagine that, be prepared for it, you're going to be better off. I mean, one way or another, even if it doesn't happen to you, you still be better off. And even
at least
you're still
living a life of meaning and fulfillment. That's the goal for everybody.
Right.
God forbid, I hope to God that nothing like that ever happens to anybody. We know that that's probably not feasible. It doesn't have to be as extreme, but even a divorce or something like that, the level of the atomic bomb and your metaphorical atomic bomb in your life is limited by how you perceive it, right? For some people, losing their job might be an atomic bomb. As we talked about in a previous book with the hard things about hard things, when he talks about, his company maybe going under, that was an atomic bomb for his life. If that's your atomic bomb, then no big deal. And I bet the people that went through a literal atomic bomb probably go, well, if losing a child's your only atomic bomb, like, they're probably, everybody has a different level of atomic bombs that go, that's my point. Like there is this isn't a comparison. This isn't whose life is worse. Either way though, it's going to happen to somebody, to everybody in some way, shape, or form. However you want to perceive that at some point in time in your life. The best thing you can do is, like you said, is to prepare for it in advance. Live every day for that day and for fulfillment and for meaning and for purpose. And you do that by aligning with what you say is most important to you in your life. It just sucks for me that it took a lesson like this for me to figure that out. But that's why we're sharing this conversation with others today. And that's why we're trying to build a club to help people find that balance they seek and to help people understand what's important to them now and to help people build that life so they can
without having to go through an atomic bomb to find it. It's such a shame to be waking up by this atomic bomb, right? It's a hefty price to pay. to get that wake up call. And so what we're doing now is, hey, uses Chris's atomic bomb as a proxy, as your wake up call, and figure out what is your core values, what makes you you,
Exactly.
and
So
live that way.
I think what you and I have discovered through this whole journey is there's nothing groundbreaking that we're talking about here, right? But it sounds really easy in theory, but it's probably the hardest thing you could ever do in your entire life is to really spend that time to understand who you are, what's most important to you, and then live that way every single day, right? Like that is the hardest thing that any human could ever do,
Yes,
in my
because
personal opinion.
you're going against the grain.
Fight
Society doesn't encourage that, and they do the opposite. And you're supposed to go against the grain, and everybody's going to look at you and say, what are you doing? Why aren't you conforming? Why are you conforming to the masses? And the masses isn't giving you that identity that you want. They're not giving you that meaningful work, meaningful core values that you want. It's not your core values.
Right.
And so
they'll give you an identity.
They give you something, but it's not yours.
Right. Exactly. Eventually you'll realize this isn't me. Like, and I don't want this. And that's when midlife crises happen.
Yes.
That's when people find themselves in a bad spot with, quote unquote, mental health, issues or something along those lines. Like it's an epidemic in our world, I think, in general, of people that are, I was just kind of writing about this morning with my reflection for a book, 100 books plus and to come in the future. But it was a very similar thought and message and around like, so I spent the first 35 years of my life not knowing who I was, not doing a single thing. Sorry, that's not true. I rarely did anything that was for me, like, of what I cared about and what was important to me. Like, I did what everybody else wanted me to do. I did what I was told to do. I would give anything to go back 2 years in time to feel the way that I feel right now, but to have my daughter here with me, and if that's something that I could do for other people and what my atomic bomb event could create and what you and I can do together to help the other people, like that's my life's mission. I mean, honestly, that's what I'm here for. My purpose is living for my daughter. And my mission is to help other people to find that balance they seek, to learn this lesson and to apply it to their life before exactly.
Because most people, they hit the midlife crisis like late. I'm talking about 50, 60, even 70, right? Some people have early and some people don't never have it. And so that's a problem, is when you're on your deathbed and you say, well, this is something I wish this is my regrets. And most people, when they die, before they die, they have a lot of regrets. And the thing is, that is, like you say, is an epidemic. Everybody, almost like majority of people have it. So why do we have regrets? And that's the mission of Company, is you need to live your life so that you have very minimal regrets. Do the thing you want to do things for you, not because someone else told you that this is what you do. You do something for yourself. But in our society, you save that as a second priority. You prioritize other people's agenda before you, because that's what society has conditioned us to do. And I think that is going against your nature of finding out who you are, being a independent, having a identity. You just don't have that when you follow the grain of society.
Right.
And that's the thing we want to change.
You either choose your identity or somebody will choose it for you. I know for now, I'm choosing my own identity going forward, and I know what that identity is, and I know what I want it to be, and I know that too for your own self.
Yes.
Like, come join the mission if you want. We're happy to help you to discover that as well. But that's the mission of Clubbing, and that's the mission of what we're trying to do. Yeah, this is an impactful book. If you wanted to get into it and read it, I would highly encourage you. And it's not an easy book to read. It's not a fun book to read, but I think it's an important book. So that's all that I had for today, because I know my son is doing some crazy stuff over here and it's hard for me to stay focused. So we'll leave you all with the question of, what is your world anchor to today to prepare you to stay strong no matter what comes your way? Hopefully after this conversation, you realize, if it's anchored to a person or to a thing or to an item, change that immediately, because you could wake up tomorrow and it's gone, or it could be gone right after the conversation that we have right now is over. So something to think about.
Yes. So think about that, and then we'll see you next time. Bye.